Broadcasting live on the UnitedWest.org AM radio network and simulcasting on DirecTV, iHeartRadio, Roku, and the World Wide Web, this is Enemies of the State with Tom Trento.
All right, September 1st. Here's what we got today, folks. Hurricanes in Florida. Looks like the first hurricane in a decade. It's going to hit northern Florida. We're down here in the south. Looks like it's going north. We have no coverage on that, so go somewhere else if you're interested in the hurricane in Florida. But on today's show, Mr. Trump goes to Mexico. Mr. Trump goes to Mexico. CNN, hysteria. Hillary, apoplectic. And Ann, resettlement Ann Corcoran is going to be with us live a little later. She is one of the definitive experts on the resettlement issue of the refugees in the United States. And Donald Trump spoke about that yesterday in his groundbreaking speech that is sending the lefties nuts, absolutely nuts. Mark, let's start out with, I was going to go with the UMA email, but I think your girlfriend Mika deserves top billing on our show.
Mika gone insane?
Yeah, Mika gone. Hey, look, I looked up the clinical definition for hysteria, and we're going to visualize it for you. We're going to play it for you right now.
This is a joke. We're trying to make this into something it's not. Can we please just get it over with? I'm going to continue.
Get what over with? What
this stupidity, this ridiculous session that fringe alt-right Republican candidate had with the president of Mexico about a wall that's never going to happen. Please, let's not pretend this is some sort of foreign policy discussion. This is stupidity. Getting it over with.
That's a reaction.
I watched, CNN's becoming my favorite comedy show, and I could write what they're going to say before Donald Trump even speaks. But I watched the presentation with him and then all their experts there. And it's, dark, he hasn't pivoted, he's not, that's typical stuff. We're going to get into some of that. But breaking news. We got an email from one of our sources, and you're very familiar, our folks out there. Tom Trento, your host, September 1st. A couple minutes after 12 o'clock noon, live. We are live. Look, see, we're live. No Memorex here. We're live, and we thank you all for watching the show. We know it's difficult for some of you at noon, East Coast time. You're watching it afterwards. That's great. Send it out. Our whole approach is edutainment. We educate, but we entertain a little bit here and there. And for those keeping track, Lulu, our dog, Damon Rosen's dog, has made Aliyah, and Lulu is now in Israel.
She's a full-fledged Israeli, right?
Yeah. She's a Hebrew national kosher dog, Damon said. We got from one of our sources, we got one of the emails from UMA to Hillary. Okay. Now, here's the situation. Judicial Watch has filed suit forcing Hillary now to give up more emails. The bottom line, as Andy McCarthy said in his New York Post article today, that these emails are so absurd, on their face they prove the theory that she's a liar and a criminal. She said, I have no more emails that have any substance in them and anything top secret. But a federal court judge has forced the State Department to release her emails by September 13th, a little less than 2 weeks from today. And we got our hands on one of them. And as McCarthy said today, they all look like blank sheets of paper with just big redaction marks all over it. But I'm going to read this one. It's Uma Abedin, January 12, 2015, to Hillary Clinton, some top secret stuff about Israel. Hillary, did you know that? And then redact it, and redact it, so, and redact it. Can you believe this? And then she writes a curse word, S-H-I-T. Exclamation point, exclamation point. Hillary immediately responds, Uma, my dear, holy S-H-I-T, Batman. This is the way they talk, I guess, in their emails. This is so top secret that we need to put this on my server that I have in my secret closet in the basement of my house in Los Angeles. Or is it the one in Hawaii? But let me tell you more secret stuff about redaction, 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 redaction. Okay, that's it for now. And apparently Uma asked the question about Anthony. That's it for now. Remember, about your husband being a pervert. That's okay. He fits right into our family. Assalamu alaikum. True email we got our hands on.
Yeah, no, it's not true.
It's not true?
It's not true.
Did you make that up? You know what? It's probably more accurate than the ones we're going to get from them because she put them through a toaster. They have this unique software that actually burns and destroys these emails, and she was putting emails through a destruction system where you get rid of it
the
forever.
whole point about it is these new emails that they have gotten, that we know about, they are redacted like this. And so that alone says it is top secret if it is that redacted. And so these were on her emails, email servers.
Yeah, the point that she's trying to deny, the fact that top secret information is on her emails, is proven by the release of her emails that are so redacted that the public can't see the information. So, look, she's a criminal in many, many respects. Andy McCarthy, good friend of ours, former prosecutor, Southern District, says she needs to be impeached. And I was conversing with him, and I said, how do you impeach someone who's not in office? And he laid out a groundwork, and we're going to do more work on this in the future, where the framers anticipated people like this, and to keep them out of office, there could be an impeachment movement. So you impeach them, somebody who served already, you impeach them before they come back into office. Very interesting legal theory we'll get up on. But, Mark, give me your overall impression of Donald Trump's speech, and I'll give you one of the ladies on CNN when she was asked right afterwards, your overall impression.
Well, that's my point, is that it's the reaction is, you got these, is the left's reaction to it. When they go silent, when they get mumbledy, when they just go pure hysteria, they start reacting emotionally with no substance whatsoever. That is pretty much how effective the speech was. And he nailed it.
Well, he nailed it, and look, he has on his website, if anybody was interested in looking, he's laid out the general plan that he specifically put forth yesterday. On CNN, my new favorite comedy show, David Obama's guy who got him elected, I forget his last name. I hate when that happens.
See, this is a live show.
David, I want to stop and think and Google it.
No, come on.
No, but he's such an arrogant guy. He said, he failed miserably in bringing African Americans or Hispanics into the mix, but he threw red meat to his base, and it wasn't specific. There were no specific points. I listened very carefully, critically, and I'm just going to go through the 10 points very quickly. We've been covering these in our show, but the big idea for today, if you got to leave right now at 8 minutes after, if you got to take off and go do something, here's the big idea. Donald Trump's plan on stopping criminal immigration into the United States. And we include criminal under the category of criminals here in the United States, or somebody with a little family coming over. They're breaking federal law. They're criminals. We include all the people coming into this country as criminals. That's what they are. If somebody goes into Target and steals something, and it's a little mother with her little kids, and they steal a bunch of stuff, they're criminals. And yeah, their life's going to be upset because they broke the law. That's the way a country works. Donald Trump's plan will devastate, never eliminate, but devastate the Mexican gangs here in the United States of America. And if you're anyone who's ever been involved in any sort of law enforcement, either academically or in the enforcement side, you know the devastation. The Mexican gangs, primarily populated by criminal immigrants, not U.S. citizens. The Mexican gangs, and I think we have some pictures of some of the worst ones, the Mexican Mafia, one of the worst ones in the U.S. His plan will devastate Mexican gangs, and Hillary's plan will double the population of Mexican gangs here in the United States of America, simply because the door closes from Trump's plan and the door opens from Hillary's plan to folks like that gentleman right there on your screen and others, MS-13. There's a whole bunch of them. And that's just one component, one little component. And let me tell you, we work with a lot of law enforcement folks around the country. They would love to have unfettered access at taking these gangs down in the inner cities. And they're in many, usually Democrat inner cities, believe it or not, the Mexican gangs, the Mexican cartel gangs. Trump's plan will devastate that. He's going to build a wall, obviously. He's going to increase the number of Border Patrol people on the wall. He's going to use all kinds of sophisticated technology. And I have not heard Hillary address this. She will now because she's playing catch-up. Donald Trump has anticipated because he surrounded himself with good people. Go to Trump's website. I mistakenly went to it today instead of his campaign page. I went to his builder page. And he's got these gigantic pictures of gigantic buildings around the world with Trump on them. Now, you know, I've had a pretty successful life in what I do. I don't have any buildings other than Trento, Italy. Any buildings with my name on them. It's very difficult to put a gigantic building up and get your name on it. You have to do something right. He aligns himself with very, very good people and accomplishes things. Now he has, there it is right there, yeah. Now he has Giuliani around him. He's got Ben Carson around him, Sheriff Clark around him, Joe Arpaio around him, all these various people. He's going to do great things when it comes to immigration because you could see his heart is in it. It isn't some socialist political pandering to the left. Well, we're not going to touch dreamers and we're going to make sure food stamps are for everybody, the left. He's going to say, sorry, people, the bad people got to go first, then we'll figure out how we're going to handle the others. Now, because he hasn't said, we're throwing everybody out first day, the people who hated that policy now are criticizing him for not standing with his own policy. That's the hypocrisy and hysteria of people on the left right now as it relates to immigration. So we're going to see cool things from that. One subject he touched on yesterday, which graphically illustrates, if you don't live on the border, you know, you live somewhere up north in the center of the country, you may not have these immigration problems to the degree that people down the border states do. But you will have, coming to a city near you, you will have the next problem. And our special guest that we have live is going to illuminate for us this issue. And yesterday, Donald Trump, in talking about the fact that we've got to shut down immigration from other countries, particularly Muslim countries, that we have no way of knowing who the hell these people are. You have 50 people coming in. They have no paperwork. Everything's gone. They're getting a piece of fake paper from someplace. They could be the leader of the jihadist group in Raqqa, for all we know. So he's saying, shut that down. But right now, the resettlement program for refugees, particularly from the country, the broken country of Syria. And if you want to see Syria, come with us in May 20 through 30, 2017. We go right up to the border in Syria on the Israeli side, and we study Syria and everything that's going on over there. And you want to understand the refugee program? This is the lady you got to talk to. Hi, Ann Corcoran. How are you?
I'm fine, Tom. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let me thank you for the tremendous work you have done over the past 8 or 9 years. You simply said one day, I got to look into this, and now you become one of the experts on refugee resettlement in the United States. For our audience, give them a quick bit of history as to what got you, just a regular person, interested in such a complex issue.
Well, this is actually, and it's become my hobby, frankly, and I've been working at it for 9 years. 9 years ago, in the community where I live, which is Western Maryland, a rural community, the Virginia Council of Churches was secretly, and I say secretly because very few people knew it was happening, began bringing refugees into the county. They were mostly Meskhetian Turks, which are Russian, Turkish Muslims. Russia didn't want them and Turkey didn't want them. I simply at the time wanted to know, how could a church group from Virginia bring refugees and drop them off? And I have been, for the last 9 years trying to still unravel that puzzle. It's a very secretive program. I would not call myself an expert even yet because it is such a complicated, secretive program run by the U.S. State Department and the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington.
Yeah, you have produced some videos. Your first video on this just went insane virally all over the world when you started pulling back the layers of the onion skin, showing the secret collaboration between the State Department and, what is it, 9 religious organizations, I think it is, right? There
are 9. I call them federal contractors because that's exactly what they are. They like to pretend that they're nonprofit groups, but they're virtually completely 90+% funded by U.S. taxpayer dollars. 6 of them have what they would like to consider religious affiliations, but you could hardly call them that when they're almost exclusively funded by us, the taxpayer. I don't know if you're interested in hearing some of the names, but one that usually surprises people is that the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is a federal refugee resettlement contractor, and it probably resettles the vast majority of the refugees into the United States.
All right, let's just have the folks who are now, because of Donald Trump throwing hand grenades and everything on the immigration issue for the past year, more and more average Americans are starting to understand that it's a very serious, complex problem, and it impacts us every single day. The refugee resettlement is a subset of the immigration problem, but and purposely so, it's in the shadows and quiet. That's how people like to operate. Again, you're exposing it. Walk through with the Council on U.S. Bishops, Catholic bishops, how the process works simply. A bunch of refugees come in, money's exchanged, then what happens? Walk us through that process.
Well, actually, it's a step earlier than that. It's that the United Nations is choosing the vast majority of our refugees now. And that's how come we're getting so many Syrian Muslims, by the way, is that they're going to UN camps. The Christians don't go into the UN camps. And so the UN is picking our refugees and telling us which ones to take. So the Syrians, for example, are 99% Muslim. As far as I know, the Catholic bishops have never raised a question about where are the Christian Syrians. So the UN picks them. Department of Homeland Security is supposed to screen them, which you already addressed. I mean, the question is, how do you screen somebody coming from a failed state? And then the U.S. State Department contracts with these 9 federal contractors who have 350 subcontractors working for them, and they distribute them around the country. Right now, they have offices in 190 cities, but they can resettle refugees within 100 miles of those cities. So you see, everybody is vulnerable to some degree, except if you live in Wyoming and parts of Montana.
All right, well, let's say, how many Syrians from war-torn Syria have come in so far this year? Do we have any handle on anything like that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the Obama administration was bragging 2 days ago that they reached their 10,000 number goal. They last year at this time, the Obama administration said we want 10,000 Syrians in here by September 30th, which is the end of the fiscal year coming up. And sure enough, they pushed really hard. They actually reduced the security screening time from 18 to 24 months down to 3 months to be able to get 10,000 in here. And they met their goal. And all of this is aimed at Obama's big PR campaign that starts here in the next few weeks. Well, it's already started with the contractors. But Obama is going to the United Nations on September 20th to make a huge pitch for us to take more refugees next year. And it looks like he's going to be pushing for 200,000 total refugees for fiscal year 2017. He has one more shot, according to federal law. He has one more shot at basically dictating how many refugees come in next year.
All right, Ann, we're trying to keep our afternoon shows short so people can eat lunch, all of that. We're definitely going to have you back, but I got a couple of more questions because this is infuriating. When these 10,000 came over, before that, the other day we did some research. I was very curious as to Syria's immigration policies. I don't know if you've ever researched what it takes to get into Syria. If anybody in their right mind wanted to go to Syria. But there was the historic Syria that years ago was somewhat stable, but now is just insane. But one of the interesting points that we discovered, Jews, Israelis, are not allowed into Syria. No Israelis allowed anytime ever into Syria. And if you've been to Israel and it's in your passport, you are not allowed into Syria. Just the way it is. The Syrian government has a public policy position. No Jews, no Israelis primarily. The Jews could slip in, changing their name, all that. But if you're from the country of Israel or you visited Israel, you are not getting into Syria. That's their entrance policy for people who want to get into the country, number one. Number two, when we go back and forth to Israel, and you should come with us sometime in one of our trips.
Wonderful. I'd love to.
When you go through passport, you know how they stamp your passports, all the countries you go to? Not Israel. You don't get a stamp on your passport when you go into Israel. You get a little tiny card that you can't lose. Why? Because if my passport showed Israel, there's a bunch of Muslim countries I can't go in simply because I went to Israel. That's their policy. But now 10,000 just came into our country. Where'd they go?
Well, they went to many states. They're distributed in small towns and large cities throughout the United States. I mean, they're all split up. I didn't look up exactly where all they went, but I think there's only 5 states that didn't get any Syrians. So it's no surprise. And the other thing that should be no surprise to your viewers here is that Saudi Arabia takes 0 refugees, a wealthy country like that with lots of space, and it takes 0 Muslim refugees. Yet we take more refugees on a permanent basis than any country in the world.
Unbelievable. Well, look, we're going to have to continue this because I think these sort of issues, and you are an expert, whether you want to admit it or not, you have expertise. You know what the definition of an expert is? If you know more than the guy you're talking to, you're an expert, okay? But we're going to continue having you back. I want to take these points a piece at a time because not only does Syria have, an anti-Israel Jew hatred policy, but by doctrine, that country teaches Jew hatred in its academic study. I mean, and it teaches hatred of the West, and it teaches Islamic jihad, Sharia, all of this. So out of these 10,000 people, I guarantee you, 9,999 are anti-Jewish, anti-Western, but they're just looking for a place to get out of their rat hole country, and we're idiots enough to take them. Now, if these were Syrian Christians, I'd have a different argument. Their whole worldview is completely different, and they were persecuted, and they were protected somewhat by Assad, but they were persecuted by the population there, had to be very, very careful. But as you said, these are all Muslims. We will have you back, but I want to leave you with this one thought, Ann, okay?
Sure.
As of today, Donald Trump has had more press conferences in Mexico than Hillary has had in the United States of America. Okay?
That's wonderful.
Okay, see you tomorrow, everybody. Bye.
Bye.